Welcome to today's iSeminar, Mastering Customer Experience to Engage Today's Digitally Savvy Shopper. I'm Maureen Mackey. I'm the Managing Director for the Path to Purchase Institute. Thanks for joining us. Let me introduce today's speakers. Presenting today is Megan Holmes and Brendan Witcher. Megan Holmes is Senior Director, Strategy and Insights at Hello World. Megan has experience designing consumer engagement campaigns on behalf of brands like Nestle, Starbucks, and Target. She has a passion for emerging technology and determining how it can enhance the shopper experience. She understands the challenges marketers are facing as she spent nearly 10 years on the brand side with various marketing leadership positions at Borders and T-Mobile. Brendan Witcher is Principal Analyst at Forrester. Brendan is a leading expert on e-commerce business, consumer behavior, and technology trends in the digital engagement space. He is also a noted authority on technology developments that affect both online and offline commerce industries, as well as vendors that help facilitate delivery of today's leading strategies and tactics in digital excellence. As with all our webinars, we'll have time at the end for questions. And if you'll notice on your menu bar, you'll see two icons. One is for the Q&A and the other is for chat. You can use either feature to send me your questions, and then when Megan and Brendan finish, we'll make our way through as many of them as we can. So without further delay, please welcome Megan and Brendan.
Thanks so much. All right, so we'll just go ahead and dive in. As all you know, shoppers are more demanding now than ever before. They want what they want, and they have little patience for brands that can't keep up with them. So this poses a big challenge on marketers. We are looking forward to sharing our thoughts on how you can best engage today's digitally savvy shopper. Before we dive in, I'll give a quick overview on Hello World. At Hello World, we are experts in consumer engagement. We leverage our own native technology and couple that with our marketing strategy to really create memorable interactions with consumers. We develop promotions to spark interest and create loyalty programs to retain behavior over time. So with all that, we're very in tune with what is happening in the marketplace. So we're really excited to talk about what trends we're seeing. From an agenda perspective today, we are first going to really dive in with Brendan's expertise and talk about the empowered shopper. And then after that, we'll talk through 6 trends that we're really seeing redefine shopper marketing, talk through the definition, some use cases that we're seeing in the marketplace, and then most importantly, we're going to really spend some time on how these trends benefit the shopper, the manufacturer, and the retailer, because we know it needs to be a win-win-win all the way around. To give you a quick preview on the trends, these are the 6 things that we are seeing. And we know marketers are looking for new and unexpected ways to turn an ordinary trip to the store into something that's really meaningful and ultimately builds up to a larger, more engaging experience. So we'll get to that in a little bit, but now I'd like to turn it over to Brendan, who's going to talk about the empowered shopper.
Great. Thanks, Megan. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Appreciate you joining the webinar today and looking forward to diving right in and talking to everyone about this. If you have any questions, of course, at the end, let us know. First, the idea of empowered customers is nothing new, but what empowered customers have done is they've brought us into this new era, this new age. And when I talk to marketers today, when I meet with them, whether it's at conferences or in their offices or wherever I run into them, a lot of them share with me that, it just feels different, especially the ones that have been doing it for a long time. It says it feels more challenging and feels more difficult, but why? I've been doing this for so long, and why does it suddenly feel like I'm behind, and why is it that I'm not in control anymore? Well, the truth of the matter is that you're not. You're not in control. You're in this age of the customer that Forrester has defined. And a lot of people think that we have remained in this age of information where Amazon and Google and companies that are about information and sharing information and using information to better connect with customers, is still going on. But actually what we've moved into, which is why it feels so disrupted, is that the customer has become the centerpiece of the commerce engagement and of engaging with them in a way that fits their needs, meets their needs, and meets their expectations has really become the priority. But what does that look like? What really drove this age of the customer? Well, when we look at the past was that companies really had control of everything. They had control of the kinds of information they could share or would share with customers. They had control of the price that they could offer a customer, and they controlled which location you could get that particular product. And so, that was about 20 years ago. And then all of a sudden, we had this thing happen where technology became part of the commerce suite, right? Like that is where we moved to websites, and we launched them rather quickly. But then what's really interesting and really great about this timeline is that what happened was we had technologies being introduced like product recommendation engines and chat and virtual agents and all these other types of things, social media and things like that. And that became things that we could offer to our consumers and say, hey, we have technology and now we'd like to give it to you. And that was great, and customers were surprised and delighted by certain parts of that. But then something happened. Technology moved into our customers' hands, and they started to be in control. They started to actually become what we call digitally savvy. And they started saying, well, now that I have technology in my hands, I really have control over the information that I want to access. I have control over the price I want to pay because I can compare prices everywhere, and I have control, and I want control over the location of where I get the product, whether it be at my home or at the store or wherever I want to pick it up. And this is really now in my hands as a consumer. And so for the first time ever in our history, we are chasing customers. And so the marketer today has more than just a job to get out campaigns and determine the next promotion. It's their job to try and anticipate where is the customer going, where are they heading, what speed are they moving at. And marketers today have to move at the speed of the customer. Well, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that not only do they have to deliver on the expectations, but the marketer has to turn to the organization and say, where are we not moving fast enough to keep up with the customer? And a lot of organizations that we work with, they struggle not with understanding where the marketing team needs to be, but where all parts and pieces of the organization need to be. That wheel of operational excellence and digital excellence needs to turn at the same pace so that companies can keep up with today's customers. Here's an example of just how disruptive this has become. By 2019, there will be 3.5 billion smartphones in the world. And that is significant, especially when you think of how many of those are being used for shopping. If you look at this particular chart, a lot of organizations find this interesting, that shopping, when you look at mobile web, for example, it is utilized both across tablets and smartphones frequently and equally, right? So when consumers gave us this information, this is what they shared, how they're using their devices. So shopping on mobile devices has become a standard. Well, this just adds to the complexity because as they move to their smartphones for shopping, they're moving their commerce to smartphones. By 2020, mobile phone and tablet commerce will exceed 48% of online retail sales. Now, that's not traffic. Like, we're talking about commerce. This is where people will choose to buy and shop. And more, they're starting to use those smartphones in the locations that they shop. So you see a lot of retailers moving to in-store app experiences and even developing engagement tools within the store to mirror what the customer normally has in their hand. So this is where it's become so challenging for marketers is they don't have to deal with one channel anymore. They don't have to deal with just the next campaign. They have to deal with the customer journey. And that's why it's become complex, and that's why it's become difficult. And complexity is the new reality. So we're looking at customers who go through phases of exploring, buying, engaging, and discovering products across multiple channels, and it's the marketer's job to understand, how much depth, how much reach, and how much of a relationship do we need to do at each point in this journey and at each digital touch point. So as you can imagine, It's very, very challenging. So when we're working with organizations today, our key focus is on these 5 imperatives: driving the business growth with privacy, turn big data into business insights, embracing the mobile mind shift that is happening right now, accelerating your digital business, a very challenging area, but probably the number one thing that we work with companies on is transforming the customer experience. Because what's interesting today is when we ask e-commerce professionals, what are you focusing on, this makes it to the top of the list, and I'll go over that in just a moment. But the goal of organizations today should be to create these seamless and consistent customer experiences. Now, the word omnichannel gets thrown around a lot, and I actually have an omnichannel commerce playbook that I've written at Forrester. And we see this as not just omnichannel. Omnichannel is kind of an adjective. It's followed usually by another word like omnichannel inventory, omnichannel engagement, omnichannel view of the customer. A lot of this is aligned to the way that the customers want to shop today. So as you, as an organization, move forward and thinking about, what is ultimately what we're trying to achieve, I see companies making the mistake of saying, we want to launch this technology, we want to launch that technology, we want to launch this, we want to give the customer this. Well, I would encourage you not to start with the terms we want to, but rather the customer wants us to. The customer would delight in, the customer would enjoy, the customer would appreciate. More importantly, the customer would find value in X, Y, and Z. And if you start with the customer in mind, it's very easy to think about what your strategy should be rather than thinking about, as an organization, what it is that you ultimately want to achieve. And companies that have this mindset, have this future-looking mindset, they really have matured and changed and evolved, quite frankly, into a new type of business. So successful brands do think differently about their digital investments and their strategies. For example, traditional businesses think about digital touch points as bolt-ons, right? So I have an e-commerce platform, I have some technologies that I utilize internally, and how can we continue to bolt on digital touch points? Well, it's not really what a touch point's purpose is. It's not, your goal isn't to attach it. Your goal is to provide value to the customer with digitally enhanced products and services. Interpret that you can into engagement, possibly. I see a lot of retailers really focusing on engagement being the primary driver of their digital investments today. Operational excellence used to be about functional efficiency. How can we reduce cost? But what companies missed in that is that they've forgotten that really operational excellence is about the whole operation moving at the same pace, not parts and pieces of it moving slower or faster than the rest of it. So this cross-functional agility, understanding that if our marketing team is armed with lots of technology and lots of insights into the customer, but our inventory team and our merchandising team and our IT folks don't have that, they don't have those real-time insights, then the wheel can only spin. The process of engaging the customer can only move at the pace of the slowest team. And so we work with companies today to move into a digital business strategy where they're thinking more about holistically, do we have slowdowns? Do we have teams? For example, I know many companies that have to reach out to other departments for reporting or for analytics about the customer, and they can wait 2, 5, 24, 48 hours sometimes for insights. Well, if the customer is moving at real time and you're moving in 24 hours after the customer, you're not really moving at the speed of the customer. And that's a company that's ripe for disruption. Technology attitudes, safety and cost reductions, right? Thinking about, how do we think about technology and security and things like that? And those are important as well. But more to the point, we ask the question, can you move fast? Can you avoid the perfect and move quickly, especially when it's low risk to the customer? Are there things you can do where you can test and learn and get into the marketplace quickly? And more importantly, once you learn that there's a win, how do you optimize for that? And how do you build on that investment? And later on, we'll see some examples of companies doing those types of things. But when we look at companies like Neiman Marcus, or Nordstrom, or Starbucks, they all started with a technology, but remembering that over the course of time, months and years, they've leveraged what they invested in and then iterated on it and built upon it to create even better and better experiences. So I encourage you not to look out in the marketplace today as a marketer and say, look at all they're doing. Well, remember, they didn't all start there, right? And it's a journey, not a destination. And so as you think about technology attitude, it's about getting fast to market. It's okay to be a fast follower, not always a leader, but if you're going to be a fast follower, be a true fast follower. and the value proposition. Traditional businesses think value is better products. And the truth of the matter is, and I'm not trying to say anything negative about merchandisers or products today, but the truth of the matter is that there's many products out there that are very similar. There's many products that have become fairly commoditized. And the truth of the matter is that customers today, they're not shopping for your products, they're shopping for an experience. I like to give the example of when I was a younger kid, probably the most exciting thing that I could do, I'm probably showing my age here, was play a game of Uno, right? Like that was exciting to me, colorful cards, things like that. But today's kids, today's people that are growing up maturing into the commerce market and becoming your next customer, they're used to very stimulating engagements. And the truth of the matter is going onto a website and walking into a store and pulling a shirt off the shelf and trying it on is just not going to cut it in the future. They're looking for engagement. Retailers that are leading today are thinking about their entire ecosystem as not places to shop, but places to engage and give customers great experiences. And on the note of experiences, one of the things that we see about engaging and really meeting the needs of today's customers is to let go of this idea that who you're competing with is who you should be watching. Because each time a customer is exposed to an improved shopping experience, their shopping expectations are reset to a new, higher level. Now, notice I didn't say anything about your competitors. Now, I give an example a lot about, for example, Dick's Sporting Goods and Macy's. As a consumer, not as a marketer, not as an e-commerce professional or business professional, as a consumer, you would probably say that if you went to Macy's.com and had a great experience and then went to your next tab and then went to Dick'sSportingGoods.com and didn't have such a great experience, you'd say, my expectations were not met. Now, Macy's and Dick's Sporting Goods do not consider themselves competitors. Macy's looks at other people, Dick's Sporting Goods looks at other people, and if they were only looking at the other group, they would be missing what the consumer is thinking. So today we encourage you not to think we only need to move as fast as our competitor. Again, you need to move as fast as the customer, and customers' expectations are being set all the time by financial services, insurance agencies, even the government. Everybody is resetting customer expectations today, and that's the speed you need to move at. But when we think about experiences, one of the challenges that we find is that companies too often think that they have to measure their business on sales and conversion. It's in the moment, in the immediate. For example, in today's world, about $3.4 trillion of the sales happens in the retail environment every year. Of that, about only $400 billion of that is pure online, and another $1.5 trillion about is pure in-store. The remaining $1.5 trillion are people who go online and then go in the store to shop. For multi-channel retailers, this is a web influence sale, right? Somebody who would go in the store. Now remember, I said $1.5 trillion, and then I said online is $400 billion. So let me ask you a question. When you're thinking about your website and it generates $400 billion worth of sales, but your website drives $1.5 trillion worth of sales into your store, are you really should you be so concerned about sales and conversion on your website, or should you be concerned about winning that customer's loyalty and letting them shop in the channel they choose? The idea is to focus on the experience, because if you're focusing on the experience, conversion will take care of itself. You cannot, in today's world, especially in an omni-channel shopping world, be so concerned about where the sale occurs. Conversion is conversion of the customer. And that's where companies today need to focus on, and the way to do that is to drive it through experience. And why does that matter? Because consumers care about experience. 68% of them said, for example, I am unlikely to return to a website that does not provide a satisfactory customer experience. That is significant. And remember the high jump slide that I showed you earlier, their expectations are being reset all the time. So the thing that they're happy with today does not mean what they will be happy with tomorrow. So, we do a lot of assessments of people's websites and experiences, and it's funny how companies 2 years ago that had great experiences, we hold them up against what the customer expectations are today, and they just don't meet the snuff because they haven't made the continuous investments, the iterative design that's required to keep up with the customer today. And then if you're going to go with experience, how do you measure customer success? Well, a lot of companies today have moved to this idea of asking more questions of the customer, understanding, more importantly, not about the short-term value of doing something, but rather the long-term value of that customer. What is the lifetime value of each customer? Can we create more lifetime value out of them over time and better spend over that time? So a company like Virgin Media, for example, rewarding employees based on Net Promoter Score improvements, right? This is all about focusing on, did the customer have a great experience? Because Richard Branson and Virgin Media, they really understand this idea that when you're focusing on experience, the customer will take care of the revenue for you. I mean, he loves to say things like that. But the customer will make sure that you get your money if you deliver the experience that they want. And that's the most important thing you can deliver for the customer today. And somebody asked me the other day, they said, sometimes we trade off what's good for the customer for what's good for the company, meaning today we'll do something that's not in the customer's best interest. And I say, well, that depends on your window and your view and your vision for customer satisfaction and success. Because if you think you're doing something good for your company today, but it's at the detriment of your customer, then I would say actually it's not for the good of your company, because over the long term, that customer will leave you. That customer will attrite. They will hyper-abandon you and move on to the next company that is meeting their expectations, that is giving them great experiences, that is personalizing things for them, and making their experiences more relevant for who they are as a shopper. And so, again, organizations today that really get this, they are focusing on customer experience. Which of the following initiatives are likely to be your organization's top business priorities over the next 12 months? 70% said improve the experience of our customers. Now, that seems like a no-brainer. But what's amazing to me when I look at this information and these statistics is what it beat. So when you look at improve our products and services, that's really forward thinking, saying this is not where we need to put our investments. We need to put it on the experience, because the brand is defined by the experience, and that's where we need to focus. Look down the list a little bit. Things like improve our ability to innovate. Even reducing cost didn't hit the number that improved the experience of our customers. And that's important because we just came out of a recession, and reducing costs has been at the high of the list for a long time. So as you can see, we are evolving to this next stage, and the importance of your organization is keeping up with that evolution, and then remembering that everyone out there is trying to improve the experience to their customers, and so you need to be doing that as well to keep up. So what is the path? So I said what the goal was earlier about seamless experiences, and the path should be coordination of experiences across channels and screens. And that path may seem as daunting as this mountain would look to climb by foot. But the truth of the matter is that, if you want to sit under the shade of a tree, you had to plant a seed 7 years ago. There's some famous oil baron that said that. And it's the same way with making an investment in the experiences of your customer. You need to start somewhere. And the point is, this is not a Monday to Friday activity. If your competitors and people in the marketplace that are delivering great experiences are starting to do this today and they deliver something, you can't suddenly turn around on a Monday and have this done by Friday. This is something you need to be investing in today. It's something where you need to have a strategy in place. You need to have all of your digital teams aligned and moving forward and thinking about what does the next 3 years for us look like? Because if we don't start that now, 3 years from now, we'll probably be disrupted out of business or very irrelevant. And the fortunate part about all this for marketers is that customers today, these digitally savvy customers I referenced earlier, they're social customers, and they're looking for brands to understand them. We have statistics that show that over 50% of consumers would be happy to even answer a short questionnaire if it meant that a brand would deliver to them more relevant contextual experiences, giving them giving the retailer and the organization better insights to who they are. The challenge is that marketers today still live in a world they're afraid to ask the customer. They think, oh, well, we'll just monitor their clicks. You know what? That doesn't tell you anything. That just is a guess, right? Like you're trying to assess based on a customer's behavior whether or not they actually are interested in something, when it's amazing that today's consumers are actually willing to share information about themselves. At Forrester, we have information that shows that when we ask consumers what types of information they're willing to share, they are willing to share personal preferences, brands they shop with, products they already own, hobbies and activities that they're interested in. These 4 things made it to the top of the list. The things that made it below that, my age, my income, where I live, my gender, a photo of me. Interestingly enough, These are the things that marketers tend to focus on, and they're actually the things that customers feel they least want to share with organizations because, quite frankly, the customer in this case is right. Those are the most irrelevant things about them. My income level does not determine what I'm interested in, but what I'm interested in determines what I'm interested in. So if you just ask consumers today, what is it that you want? What are the experiences you want? They're actually willing to share. And let me be clear on one thing before I pass it off in just a moment, which is that I'm not talking about a revolution. Don't throw out the things that are working for you. Don't completely upend your company. This is not something that you want to go back and completely let go of the things that are working, but rather start thinking in an evolutionary way about, okay, we know where we're at, but do we want to change the trajectory? Yes, because it needs to align with the customer. So how do we get better alignment with that? It's about taking a step back at your organization, across your entire organization, and working with them to move forward in a way that more aligns with where the customers are going, more aligns with thinking about becoming a digital strategy business rather than a business with a digital strategy. And finally, as I said, and I think this has been the primary theme that I've been saying all along, but really the goal is to fill this gap between what you know and what you think you know about the customer. What you think you know can often take you in the wrong direction. And the reason why what you think you know is probably irrelevant is because the customer today is dynamic. They are ever changing. Their expectations are ever changing. The way I shopped with you a year ago is not my expectations for today. For example, we see 14% of consumers today always using buy online, pick up in store as a method for shopping whenever it's available, and another 26% using it sometimes. That's 40% of consumers using it as a way to shop. A year or two ago, the number was, in single digits, just not zero, close to zero. And the reason is because that's how fast consumers are moving. And so as a marketer, as an organization, you need to start thinking about what are these experiences? What do our customers want and need from us, both in the communications that we send out in our marketing, the places we put that marketing, the message, the products we show, the content, and I would argue that product is content, so it's all content. Is it relevant? Is it personalized? Is it right there with who the customer is? And with that, I'll hand it off to Megan.
Thanks, Brendan. So really piggybacking off of what Brendan just said, the digitally connected customer is constantly changing, so marketers cannot maintain status quo. So let's dive back into the trends that I previewed with you earlier. Again, these are 6 trends Hello World sees redefining shopper marketing. So from eValue and consumption disruption to retailtainment and Kupalo, all these trends really allow marketers to drive more meaningful connections with their digitally connected consumer as they move in and out of shopper mode. And that's kind of an important piece to keep in mind. Our first trend is eValue. We are seeing brands reward engagement in really fun and unexpected ways. eValue makes any activation shoppable and motivates a purchase even if they aren't in shopper mode, which I know is everything that everybody is after. So an interesting use case that we have here, Snickers has a global campaign, You're Not You When You're Hungry. And as an extension of this campaign in Australia, Snickers wanted to make it as easy as possible for consumers to grab one of their candy bars when they were not in the best mood. So what they put in place, this was a social play with a special algorithm that monitors the current mood and sentiment of consumers online. And when they noticed that people are starting to get a little angry, the price of a Snickers candy bar dropped accordingly. So let's say that maybe there was a disappointing loss of a major sports team, and there was a lot of negative chatter about that. Snickers would drop the price of the candy bar when they saw that kind of negative sentiment. How it worked, consumers visited a website to check out and claim that lower price, and they were able to get access to a coupon that they could use at 7-Eleven locations. So Snickers really effectively connected with consumers to bring value to their product and create a buzzworthy site that consumers wanted to check. I mean, who doesn't want to know how angry the internet is at any point? So kind of an interesting play here. So eValue, back to the trend, is an unexpected way to bring value to consumers. On the benefit side, for the shopper, it really moves beyond the mundane task of clipping a coupon, and it makes it fun. For manufacturers, it allows you to have a one-to-one connection with consumers, which is sometimes hard to do, and also gives unique opportunities to collaborate with a retailer. Of course, on the retail front, it captures consumers in interesting ways when they aren't necessarily in buyer mode. So brands are always looking for ways to keep pace with shoppers' changing needs. And this brings us to our next trend, innovate and incubate, where both manufacturers and retailers are increasingly creating their own innovation labs. I think I see things pop up about this nearly every week, and partnering with startups and entrepreneurs as an efficient way to really kind of gain that competitive edge and bring new technologies to the marketplace. So Mondelez has been doing exactly this for the last several years. In 2012, they paired up brands with mobile and social startups as part of their Mobile Futures initiative. And last year, they actually added retailers to their Shopper Futures program. One of the outputs of this initiative is what's featured on this slide. It's a pilot that Trident did with Come and Go. So through Come and Go's app, consumers opt in to share their physical activity, sleep and eating behaviors, and based on what they record in the app, they were rewarded with a Trident coupon. So for example, let's say I recorded that I took 10,000 steps in a day, I might get rewarded with a coupon. So by having this innovation process in place at Mondelez, this allowed Trident to get this personalized consumer engagement to the marketplace efficiently. And there's lots of different examples of how this could work. So this whole think like a partner, or think like and partner up with a startup trend is getting innovative solutions to the market more quickly and allowing brands to really differentiate themselves and disrupt that shopper ecosystem, which people want to kind of break through the clutter and be known for something. So for shoppers on the benefit side, there's lots of different things that can enhance their experience. It can simplify the shopper experience and reward behaviors in new and different ways. And then on the manufacturer and retail front, it really just allows that new innovations to come more quickly and efficiently to market. So we've seen a lot of traction in this space. Along the innovation path, connected devices are really popping up everywhere. I think I read about this frequently in all the news outlets as well. So whether it's a TV or a refrigerator, connected devices really provide consumers with that real-time access to brands whenever and wherever they are in shopper mode. So this leads us to our third trend, what we are calling connected commerce. So an example of this is something late last year that Bud Light did. They have a connected refrigerator called the Bud E-Fridge. So this refrigerator is Wi-Fi enabled. It provides real-time updates on the status of consumers' beer supply to their phone on an app. The status includes your beer count and letting you know when the temperature is right. So I don't know about you, but really there's not too many more important things than knowing the status of your beer count. Clearly a shopper benefit. So additionally, outside of kind of knowing the status of your beer, owners can select their favorite sports teams, and the app notifies you when you need to replenish the beer to prep for the big game to make sure your stock is in a good position. One other kind of unique thing that Bud Light has done with this connected fridge is they have, in select markets, consumers can replenish their supply through a liquor delivery service. So that is kind of an interesting take too. So as more and more things become digitally connected and part of this whole Internet of Things sphere, we see that there's going to be a lot more interesting opportunities for brands to connect with consumers in ways like this. So connected commerce will continue to evolve as devices become more intelligent and connected. Soon enough, they'll be smart enough to purchase products and services in real time. Some are there already with really little shopper effort. And connected commerce, from our perspective, isn't just a nice idea. This is truly transformative and will definitely transform the way shoppers buy. So the ability to simplify everyday life, this is a game changer for shoppers. It's what they're desiring and craving, and this will positively impact sales for both manufacturers and retailers. So Hello World's fourth trend is consumption disruption. This is a term that we've coined to represent a trend where brands can drive deeper product engagement by bridging the physical to the digital world. So it's a short-term play, but ultimately it drives long-term value in a very fun way. And you'll see this fun factor is kind of a common thread throughout these trends as well. The example that we have highlighted here is something that Doritos did. Doritos wanted to generate buzz around their new flavor of their Doritos 3D Jacked product. So what they did to do this really kind of captures the essence of the consumption disruption trend. How it worked, consumers bought a bag of the product, and then they got a free pair of 3D glasses from participating retailers. And then they were prompted to go to a mobile site and scan a chip to unlock the exclusive 3D video that they had as part of this. And they also had a sneak peek preview of Sharknado 3. So they had an entertainment tie-in with this. It's kind of interesting. There's a lot of movement happening in the image recognition space. Just last week, I saw that Snapchat submitted a patent application for object recognition based on photo filters, which is kind of a cool thing. So how that would work and kind of loosely what they would just describe as part of the application is that certain lenses and filters would be applied to a picture taking based on the recognition of that picture. So for example, let's say I took a picture of a cup of coffee, a coffee-specific filter, and perhaps even an offer could be served up to me as part of that photo submission experience. So while there are other ways outside of image recognition that we see consumption disruption working, again, bridging that physical to digital world, there's a lot of movement in the image recognition space. We anticipate this to be a decent part of the mix of this trend. So the Doritos example takes a three-dimensional product and really turns that into three-dimensional content that unlocks a purchase. So of course, you have to open that bag. You have to pull out a chip in order to engage. So tying it to the experience to that product purchase is a smart play. So this trend, consumption disruption, really transforms the way consumers buy, and there's tremendous opportunity for brands. If done correctly, consumption disruption can drive both manufacturer and retailer behavior through these kind of exclusive, one-of-a-kind experiences that can only be unlocked by specific products. Retailtainment is our fifth trend. This is a term that you've seen before, but it's an important one to think about, not only for retailers, but for manufacturers too. Retailtainment really does enhance the in-store experiences while shoppers are in buyer mode. So with 70% of purchase decisions made in store, this trend can deliver both manufacturer and retail value, but beyond just the traditional tactics that you might deploy as part of your shopper marketing moves. So an example we have highlighted here is something Tom's has done. So as you know, for each pair of Tom's shoes purchased, a pair of shoes is donated to a child in need. So a great cause that Tom has rallied behind and really positioned with their brand. But what they've done to drive this home even more with shoppers is they've developed a virtual reality experience in several retail locations across the globe to highlight this charitable giving effort through virtual reality. So Consumers can put on the glasses, and then they are kind of transported, and they watch a film of a giving destination of where Tom's employees are measuring the children's feet of where they give and donate the shoes to. And at the end of the experience, shoppers are introduced to a young child who shows you around his home and his living conditions. So this really taps into shopper emotions. It's a great way for shoppers to see how their purchase can make a direct impact on someone's life. And this clearly must be working for Tom's because they're expanding this experience to more retail locations and even taking us to trunk shows at Nordstrom coming up in the near future. So retailtainment enhances in-store shopping in a meaningful way, and that's important to keep in mind. So the idea is to take an ordinary trip to the store and turn that into an experience. For manufacturers, they can really make an emotional connection with shoppers, and retailers can make their store a destination, not just an obligation of where somebody needs to go. So we'll move on to our final trend, Kupalo, and this is really about customization, personalization, and localization, all things consumers are craving. And Target did an excellent campaign around Halloween, and they had a site where parents could find and report back the best trick-or-treating hotspots in their neighborhood. So it was like a crowdsourced site where parents could vote by tagging locations, and pumpkins would pop up where the most votes came in. So including engaging touch points that really build relationships rather than just always offering a discount is an important piece to keep in mind for brands as part of their marketing mix. So this Target Treatster campaign helped consumers crowdsource, created that localization connection, and this trend has the promise of helping manufacturers and retailers really create those one-to-one relationships with shoppers. And together, brands can use technology to have that level of personalization and customization that hasn't been possible in the past. So this wraps up the 6 trends that Hello World is really seeing in the marketplace. Some of these trends offer creative new ways to leverage existing technology. So keep in mind, it doesn't always have to be a new technology, but there are some other ones that are definitely more forward-looking and slowly gaining adoption with new technologies. So as we look towards the future, the ultimate litmus test and the question you need to answer is, are the solutions that you're evaluating and thinking about solve a problem? And at the end of the day, just like Brendan said, it's all about experiences and giving shoppers things that enhance their lives. So keep this in mind when investing in new technologies or solutions to make sure that you're not just chasing a shiny new object, that you are really delivering that value to shoppers. So after you hear all of this stuff, it's like, okay, great, these new trends sound exciting, but where do I go from here? There's not a one-size-fits-all answer for that, but before activating any trend, it's really important organizationally to weigh the level of effort that it will take to put in place against the business value to your organization. So this chart here is by no means a comprehensive evaluation, but at least from a high-level gut check, going through this exercise and thinking about this can help you prioritize where to place your bets. So with that kind of wraps up the content we wanted to cover with you today, and we'd like to now pause and open it up for any questions you may have.
Thanks, Megan and Brendan. That was really a great presentation. I want to remind everyone again, if you have any questions at all, please send them to us through the Q&A or the chat feature on WebEx. And we do have a question here, so let me just start with that. It says, do you have some good examples of evolution versus revolution that you can share? And I think, Brendan, you were the one who talked a little bit about evolution versus revolution.
Yeah, I do, and they're actually, there are hundreds of them, from companies like Starbucks who've changed the way that you pay for your drinks. A lot of people think that is just a payment method, right? So to move the line faster. What people forget, for example, about the Starbucks payment app, and I use it a lot because most people are familiar with the functionality of it, what it does. But that's an example of evolution versus revolution. They launched something simple, which is just the ability to take your mobile phone and pay for your drink. And why is that evolutionary? Well, because it changes the experience for the customer. But what people forget is that becomes a data capturing machine for Starbucks. So before people used that app, they were either one customer shopping 1,000 times or 1,000 customers shopping one time. And, the Starbucks had no idea about who that person was. Now they know what they buy, where they buy, what they drink, when they buy food, when they're traveling, when they're buying your home, when they're buying your work, even what promotions that customer will respond to. They don't have to give me 20% off anymore because I'll respond to 5. And so they save 15% every time they try to motivate me to come back into Starbucks. And so that is not a revolutionary way of doing things. Think of companies like Neiman Marcus with their SnapFind Shop. That's not revolutionary. It's evolutionary to the fact that they already had an app. Through that same app, you can reach out to a local store associate, your favorite store associate. It'll be listed on your app. Your local store associates are listed on your app, and you can reach them through chat, through social media, even through a phone call right from the app, and directly to that associate, and talk to them about the products you're interested in buying. Again, that's not nothing new. That's not a new way of doing things. People could call the store all along the way, but doing it through the app was evolutionary. And again, it didn't throw out what they knew was working, was people connecting with associates, but rather evolutionary in their ways.
Thank you. What is Megan's point of view on CPG and retailer collaboration? The priorities of the organization seem to be at odds.
Yeah, thanks for that question. We do hear and see sometimes that friction, right, between the two different parties. And my advice is really for CPG and retailers, well, sometimes they can have different business strategies, different KPIs. At the end of the day, there's a few common goals that they do share, and that's everybody wants to drive sales, profitability, differentiate from the competition, exceed shopper expectations, and maybe that last piece is the most important. So focus the energies when you're working on collaborative efforts on where you align, and good things will come out of that. The examples that I shared, so Doritos partnering with select retailers to distribute the 3D glasses. Snickers partnering with 7-Eleven to bring their unique coupon to market. Those are all unique things that are catching shoppers' attention, and they work because there's two parties involved and they drive meaningful goals for both of them. So focus on where you do align and go from there.
Great, thank you. What is the role of direct incentives moving forward? So coupons, prizes, rewards, etc. How much of the experience is incentive-centric?
From the Hello World perspective, incentives are definitely part of the mix, and they should be going forward. But how they are used can be very different than maybe what we've used in the past. So people are motivated by getting rewarded for something, but let's think about unique ways to deliver that reward. So as an example, I may be motivated at some point to take a social action because it involves a charitable giving effort, but at other points, I may need that direct coupon offer dangled in front of me to, get up off my feet and make a trip into the store. So incentivized actions will take many different shapes, and I think with the digital movement, there's more interesting ways to deliver that value to consumers. So part of the mix, but delivered in new ways.
Thank you. The next question is there any difference in levels of engagement depending on the product involved? CPG goods seem a natural fit, but what about products that have a longer life cycle?
Can you repeat that question? I missed the first part.
Yep. Is there any difference in levels of engagement depending on the product involved? CPG goods seem a natural fit, but what about products that have a longer life cycle?
Well, I think that from a longer life cycle perspective, this can still make sense. So let's say your product is mobile phones. There's different and interesting ways that you need to choose your mobile phone device, your brand, over other brands. And so that shopper motivation and incentive to get me to think about and consider your brand, the same kind of tactics and trends can apply for that because you need to catch my attention. And a digital ad, a TV commercial, all those different passive engagements as a shopper, may not catch my attention anymore. But if you do something that's more personalized, experience-based, so if we go to the retail-attainment trend, you have some sort of, in a Best Buy location, something that connects with me on an individual level, different from the competition, I'm going to consider making a purchase of that product that has a longer, shelf life with me than something else. So definitely these trends still apply to those other longevity products, just in a little bit different way.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, which is more important, getting your customer data in order or delivering omni-channel experiences?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me put it this way. Omni-channel experiences are driven by the customer data that you have. Here's an example of this. I was meeting with a company, the CEO, I was meeting with his team, and a big, large organization, many locations. And the CEO told me, now, Brendan, we're investing a lot in customer experience right off the bat. I said, we're investing a lot in customer experience and personalizing experiences for customers and engagement. And I said, that's all well and good, and I wasn't trying to be flip when I said this. I know the person pretty well. I said, but you know what? I've been in your locations 5 times, and you have no idea that I've been in your locations. You don't know the things that I've looked at. You don't know the products that I've been interested. You didn't give me a way when I was in your locations to engage with you. Like your associates weren't mobile enabled. They couldn't track who I was. Your stores didn't have any digital screens. How can you possibly know anything about me before that? So a prerequisite for anything in omnichannel, first and foremost, omnichannel requires omni-customer, meaning you know who the customer is across channels. Secondly, I would say that we find that many companies have customer data in multiple locations. To some extreme, we've seen some companies with customer data in as high as 30 or 40 different locations, meaning it's at with different vendors, it's at with different departments, it was all in different databases with different information about that each customer. And we find that actually consolidating that customer data into a single location so that you can use it in engagements in a way where you know more things about that customer and accessing that through the tools and technologies that you use so you get a better 360-degree view of the customer will enhance and create better engagements in an omni-channel way. And so what we would encourage you to do is while you're working on your, in tandem with working on your omni-channel strategy, working on also consolidating customer data, bringing it together, and making sure you have a really good view of that customer so you can create even better experiences for each one on a personalized level.
Thank you. And then another question is, where along the path to purchase do trends fall?
Well, that's an interesting question. There's lots of different debates and arguments. What is today's path to purchase? I think it's, the general sentiment is that there's not a clear linear path to purchase anymore. People move in and out of shopper mode all the time. Because they're connected with devices, they have the ability to do that a lot more differently in today's digital age. So these trends, all of them, they can touch at all different touch points across the path to purchase. So there's an awareness play, consideration, purchase, and then loyalty. Probably from a loyalty perspective, I would say eValue, innovate and incubate, and consumption disruption and Kublo are the 4 trends that most strongly align with that specific component of the path to purchase. But the other areas, all these trends can kind of apply to those touch points.
Thank you. Another question is, understanding relevance is critical. How do you know when you might be approaching a point of diminishing returns? When you're asking for too much info or the consumer starts to get uncomfortable with how much you know?
Brendan, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'm happy to. That's a great question. Lots of good questions here. Here's the way that we approach it, and I'm happy to follow up on this if you'd like. But the idea, I think we might be able to answer it here in the time we have. The idea is to be overt when you're collecting customer data and helping customers understand why you're collecting certain information. So, for example, there's some companies out there that utilize solutions that help understand the right products that you might want to wear, right, clothing products, and they utilize that by asking you what products you already own, for example. Now, part of that process is asking the customer what is your body type, right? Like most marketers would say, I would never ask a customer their body type. But what we find is if within the experience of asking them what their body type is, you're explaining to them why you're asking this information, then they're far more willing to share with you. They don't find it creepy when you say, if you share these kinds of information with us, we can help create more relevant experiences for you by taking this step and this step. Being very overt about why you're asking information. Don't say, we'd like to know your body type. Okay, thank you, goodbye. Like that is wrong. The idea is actually walking the customers through the process of why you're asking this kind of information. And then on the flip side, again, avoiding the creep factor, is being covert about delivering personalization and delivering great experiences that are very relevant for the customer by just giving them a great experience. So if I'm on the phone looking at skis on my app on a Friday night, and I walk into a sporting goods store the next day with my app on, creepy would be that a manager walks up to me and says, hi, Brendan, we saw you were on the phone looking at skis for 4 hours last night. Would you like the ski associate to help you? Yeah, that's creepy. That's being overt about personalization. What does covert personalization look like? If I walk into the store the next day, when someone approaches me and asks me, can I help you, it's the ski expert. That is how you deliver personalization and great experiences in a way that avoids the creep factor. And I get that question a lot, so thank you. It's a great question.
And they said thank you, that was a really great response. Thank you very much for that. Okay, I think we have made it through everyone's questions, so I want to thank all of our guests and our speakers, Megan and Brendan, for being a part of this webinar with us today. I learned a lot, so I'm hoping that our guests learned a lot as well. So thanks, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon, and hopefully we'll see you on our next iSeminar.
Great.
Bye
Thanks,
now.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.